Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Last Stand Gamers, and welcome. So recently I was asked the question about how could I make a ship look more alien, and instead of writing a little bit of response, I thought I would show you and give you a few different ideas on how you can actually make your ship look a little bit more alien, a little bit more different, make it stand out from the sort of wave of usual cockpit at the front and an aerodynamic body behind it. Now this is just my idea, and I've built a few different variations as well as some completed designs that are over here, but we'll get onto them a little bit later. Now the first thing about building an alien ship, or a UFO you may say, is it's got to look very unconventional. It's got to look a completely different shape than any sort of ship you would see before. So what I've done here is I've gone with this lower sort of slanted body as well as this rounded sort of cockpit. Now to get these round shapes, I've used a mod that allows us to use the large ship blocks on a small ship, so that comes in very handy. And later on you're going to also see some ideas from the workshop that have been adapted to use on these ships, and all the links for them will be in the description. Anyway, let's continue on. So what I've done is I've added these large cavities either for troop transport, storage or so on, and you can see as the design started to develop I started to add another cockpit on, and a lot of the idea from this actual ship came from the Needler from Halo. The idea and the shape, it just looks really nice, that sort of curve, that sort of angle. And then I've started to add some definition, as you can see in these areas here, different sorts of laser definition, different sorts of spike, got them nice ramp sort of plates to add the shape and definition. And I've also went to a little bit of detail. This was going to be the transport variant, so you've got two cockpits up here, and this was going to be a sort of transport area for more crew members. You can actually see into there, into the cargo bay. And towards the front I actually started developing some sort of idea for weapons, and I wanted something basic to support the troops as they hopped out. Now the design developed a little bit further and decided to take it back one step. Instead of having the cockpit further down at the front, I lifted it further towards the back, as well as neatening up a lot of other areas. Now we evolved to the next level. Now to the next level I chose a quite interesting colour, and obviously the Needler was a purpley sort of pinky colour, and that's the colour I went for. Now an alien spaceship has to have something really different in my opinion, like tentacles or something that's going to stick out and really sort of scare people that are approaching it. So I went with some sort of collapsible sort of tail section, and I'll show you inside just really shortly, but it doesn't seem to work as well as I would have liked it to. So we'll hop inside here, and what I'm going to do, as you can move, you can see how it stretches out like so, and then as you stop it retracts in. And I messed around with this for quite some time, and it looks cool. It does hamper the performance of the actual ship, and the actual idea of it looks good, but it doesn't really serve any real purpose. Maybe attaching something else onto there, like some maybe some weapons or something. But you can see as it brings around, it actually folds up, and as I reverse it collapses back down. So it's just an interesting way of actually having a mess around. Now to take it to the next level, I wanted to add something as an interior, and you can see here we've actually got a seat in the back here, and I was going to use this to remotely control something on this arm, but I completely scrapped the arm, but I'll show you inside anyway. So we hop in here, you've got some buttons, you've got the windows out both sides, just a nice little idea to have a little enclosed secondary cockpit that is not a cockpit itself. So let's move on to some of the later designs. Now if I can orientate myself, we'll head over here. So after seeing something recently on the workshop using connectors as sort of a bendy sort of arm, I really thought this helped with the alien sort of ideas and tentacles coming off a ship to probe and reach into different areas. And you can see on this version I decided to go with two, but on the later design I went with a single one that comes from the back, but we'll have a look at that a little bit later. And the idea was that you'd have your co-pilot in the back here, and he's responsible for remotely controlling these arms. So we're going to grab into this seat, and it's exactly the same seat as the other one. You can see the arms out of both windows there, but I'm just going to use it in third person for the moment. We're going to activate our overlay as well as hitting the connectors. So we're just going to find the remote control and remote control left. So if we hit control, you can actually see that we've gained control of the arm there. We can actually move it around, thrust it, and we can actually weld up these blocks that are close to us if we wish. So let's get the welder into position. There's also cameras on the blocks themselves to make it a little bit easier for me, but I was just having a mess around before and just seeing how functional something like this would actually be to use. But I do find it's a lot easier to use in a first person sort of perspective. So let's get that up into position and weld up these blocks here. So it's just really sort of alien using these sort of arms from this central sort of cockpit. So we've welded that up. And you could also use it as a turret, so let's go and access that turret on the other side. We'll leave that menu, hit T, and then we'll search for the remote control block. The reason I'm searching for these remote control blocks this way is that basically, instead of using its sort of conventional function, I'm actually in the ship, so I actually have to find them by the menu rather than showing up on antennas. So we can actually go towards that one there, and we can actually grind ourselves in. So imagine it attaching to a larger sort of ship with this vessel. Now this would just be scary, the arms themselves mining into your ship. So you can see we've got it actually welded in, and we'll switch to another camera so we can actually have a spy on what's going on inside. So get these blocks down and we'll get on inside. It just looks so cool. It's so cool having arms on a ship. And I mean, it's just so different than the usual conventional designs. You can also see I've added some cameras on the back here, but we've got the same sort of cockpit, and this cockpit eventually becomes quite, it's just too small. I want to be able to see a little bit more, and you'll see what I've done on that design over there in a minute. So we're getting through. Let's access one of our cameras. So we're through now, and we can actually go inside and have a look around. So we're going to go inside, have a look up and down. We've also got machine guns here, so if we did want to for some reason blow something up over there, maybe we've breached into the hull and we're actually in the spawn room, we've got our machine guns on the end to chew up whatever may happen in there. We can also move them quite well around the actual place, bring them back into here. The only thing that's a little bit problematic with this sort of thing is that it doesn't turn too much on the sort of rotation based axis. You've got to more deal with the left, right, backwards and forwards, but apart from that you can get some really interesting sort of shots and perspectives. But let's actually exit that camera, so we're going to hit T and we'll be back to that, and out we get. So let's have a look at the final sort of alien design. Now these rotors, or these sort of connector things, were created by a very nice chap on the workshop, and they look absolutely beautiful, as well as working, supplying the items along all the way up to the welder grinder or whatever you may have on the end. So this is the end of one of the actual sort of probes, as I call them. We've got a little camera, they've got 4 Gatling turrets, and this one happens to have a welder on there. But you could stick grinders, you could stick drills, you could have this like as a little tunnel snake going in, drilling up and mining, you reverse up. But this is the little bit of difference on this version itself. What we've actually got here is we've got these little thrust sort of wings on the side, so the engines don't burn off the back part. And we've got a little domed cockpit. As you can see, we've got a chair in there, and I'm going to be able to sit in there, rotate around, and actually have a look at what's going on as I'm building. Sadly, the only way I've actually found to get in these chairs at the moment is due to the little hole in the roof, but I'm sure we'll come up with something a little bit more exciting later on. Anyway, let's access the control panel. So we're going to hit K, and we're going to find the remote block, remote control, and we'll have control of this. We also have something quite cool as well. We have our chair here is actually on a joint, so we can actually spin this chair around. So I'm not sure actually access my spectator cam, and as you can see on spectator cam, the chair is there, and I can rotate my chair around. Oh, it is pretty cool. So you can actually have a look around as you're building, and I'm going to actually keep it on spectator cam while I'm actually having a mess around with this. So you can see I'm in there, little rotor down there is what's affecting that. And if we get off spectator cam and back to my body, we can continue controlling this drill. So you can see the lasers are coming up, and we can actually shred up that other ship. Look at that. These arms with machine guns they're just so fun to use. The recoil's a little bit intense. You can actually do some pretty interesting things with them. Let's go to one of the other perspectives. Let's go back to this perspective here, and let's actually have a look at the arm itself. So too bad you can't actually remote control while you're using the spectator cam. But it's just a really little cool idea of building an alien ship. I mean, having some sort of tentacles that come off and affect the objects around you, as well as the ability to actually fire a tentacle at someone. It's pretty damn cool. Anyway, let's hop back into the ship, and let's try one more time, line up them lasers. So I have got cameras on this device, but I've not added them onto my actual control panel. So that's probably something that needs to be done as soon as possible. The way it moves, oh, it's creepy that. It's like almost like a snail. You can just move it around. You can imagine having someone on the back here, on like a turret as you're driving forward. Anyway, let's have a drive of one of these things with a tail on it. So hop to the cockpit at the front. Now, these actually control particularly rather well for having such a sort of long tail on. And if you do get any problems with them, you can actually activate the connectors, and it'll actually lock them all in place. So I'll slow down like this, and we're going to go to this menu here, and connectors all. We're going to hit lock, and it actually locks all the connectors in that static position, so you can actually fly around now without them waving around. But having them waving around behind you looks so cool, so we're going to reactivate that. And unlock. And you can actually see the tails as it waves and wiggles around. But due to its wiggleness, it does affect your ship's performance a little bit. It causes some interesting sort of turns and movement that you probably wouldn't really want as you were flying around. And also you get it hitting up against you. But anyway, that was just some interesting ideas that I had for some sort of alien sort of ships. But I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'd also like to hear your sort of opinions on building alien looking craft.